The Senate chamber hums like a hive on fire. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting harsh shadows across mahogany desks. Cameras click in rapid bursts, flashes slicing the air like lightning before a storm. Every seat is filled, every breath held. At the center of this electric silence stands Senator Chris Van Hollen, calm as a lighthouse in a hurricane, clutching a thick manila folder that weighs heavier than gold. Inside, the $8.7 million receipt, the smoking gun, the unraveling of an empire built on betrayal. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, sits ramrod straight in the witness chair, her crimson blazer a slash of arrogance against the muted blues of the room. Beside her, FBI Director Kash Patel, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes darting like a cornered animal. They think this is just another hearing. They think they're untouchable. They're wrong. Van Hollen rises slowly, deliberately. The room stills, even the reporters lean forward. He places the folder on the desk with a thud that echoes like a gavel. Then, voice steady as steel, he speaks. "You've turned the Department of Justice into your personal ATM." A gasp ripples through the gallery. Bondi's lips curl into a smirk, practiced, poisonous. Patel shifts in his seat, fingers twitching. The clock on the wall ticks. 1 second, 2, 94 seconds, exactly, from the moment Van Hollen's words land to the moment everything breaks, because that's when the first document hits the screen behind them. A wire transfer, $2.8 million, routed through a shell company named Secure Justice Consulting straight to Patel's brother, then another, $1.2 million to Bondi's sister-in-law, then the final blow, $4.2 million in foreign deposits, Saudi, UAE, stamped with the same account that buried the Epstein victim fund. The numbers glow red, the room erupts, Bondi's smirk vanishes. Her hands fly to her face as the first sob escapes, raw, guttural, caught live on every mic. Patel bolts upright, chair scraping back, eyes wild, chest heaving like he's been punched. The folder isn't just evidence, it's a detonation. And this? This is only the beginning. You won't believe what happens when the hero doesn't flinch. October 7th, 2025. The calendar says routine Senate Judiciary oversight. But the air tastes like betrayal. Outside the Dirksen building, protesters clutch photos of missing children, faces blurred by tears and time. Inside, the hearing room is a pressure cooker. C-SPAN cameras zoom tight on the witness table where Pam Bondi and Kash Patel sit like twin statues of entitlement, Bondi's manicured nails tapping a rhythm of defiance, Patel's dark eyes scanning for exits that don't exist. This isn't about budgets or policy footnotes. This is about $8.7 million siphoned from the human trafficking task force, money carved from grants meant to rescue kids sold in the dark corners of the internet, funds earmarked for the Epstein Victim Compensation Program. Every dollar rerouted bought private jets, beachfront condos, and silence. Every dollar stolen was a child left in chains. That's the crisis America wakes up to, the one that makes mothers clutch their phones at 2 a.m., praying the next alert isn't their daughter's name. Bondi leans into the microphone, voice syrupy with rehearsed innocence. "Senator, these are legitimate consulting fees. Secure Justice Consulting provides critical expertise." The word legitimate lands like a slap. Patel nods along, a loyal echo, but his knee bounces under the table, betraying the calm. Across the dais, Chris Van Hollen sits motionless, the only still point in a room vibrating with rage. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't need to. His silence is a blade. For months, whistleblowers have slipped him envelopes in parking garages, encrypted drives in coffee shops, a junior analyst who watched her boss delete Epstein files, a grant manager forced to sign off on payments to Patel's brother, a forensic accountant who traced the money to a Cayman account labeled Family Trust. Van Hollen has read every page until the numbers burn behind his eyelids. He thinks of his own daughter, asleep in Maryland, safe only because someone else's child paid the price. He thinks of the immigrant families he's fought for, the ones told America protects its own, now learning the protectors sold the vault keys. This isn't politics. This is sacrilege. The chair recognizes him. Van Hollen's voice is low, almost gentle, the kind of calm that precedes a storm. "Madam Attorney General, Director Patel, you swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Today we'll examine whether that oath still means anything when the enemy sits in the chair beside you." Bondi's smile freezes. Patel's knee stops bouncing. The gallery leans forward as one organism. Somewhere in the back, a phone camera shakes in a teenager's hand, live streaming to 1 million viewers who don't yet know they're about to witness history. Van Hollen lifts the corner of his folder, just enough for the overhead lights to catch the edge of a redacted bank statement. "I have here documentation of 3 wire transfers," he says, totaling $8.7 million. Every cent redirected from victim services to entities controlled by your families. We'll start with the first one. The room inhales. Bondi's fingers curl into fists. Patel's throat works, but no sound emerges. The clock ticks louder now, counting down to the moment their empire crumbles in seconds. Cut to black. Then a slow fade in. Palm Beach, 2013. The sun dips low over Mar-a-Lago's manicured lawns, casting golden halos on champagne flutes clinking in the humid air. Donald Trump, larger than life, strides across the terrace, his tie loosened, laughter booming like thunder. Beside him, Pam Bondi, Florida's freshly minted Attorney General, her blonde hair swept back in a power ponytail, eyes sharp as a prosecutor's gavel. She's not here for the view, she's here to seal a deal. Bondi had clawed her way up from a Tampa courtroom, the first woman to lead Florida's legal charge, promising to shield the vulnerable, victims of fraud, families shattered by the foreclosure crisis. But that vow cracked early, just months into her term. Her office eyed Trump University, a glittering scam sucking $40 million from dreamers, lured by promises of real estate riches. Complaints piled up, Floridians fleeced, lives upended. Bondi's prosecutors smelled blood. Then, a $25,000 check from Trump's foundation landed in her re-election pack. Illegal? The IRS later slapped Trump with a fine, but Bondi? She shelved the probe. No viable case, her office murmured. The room's laughter swells in our memory, a hollow echo. Pay to play, justice, for sale. Fast forward through the scandals like pages in a tabloid. The robo-signing crisis, where banks forged documents to evict 10 million families during the Great Recession. Bondi's team fired the 2 lead investigators digging into lender processing services, the heart of the fraud. Conflicts, they claimed, but whispers said otherwise. Lobbyists circling, donations flowing. Then Qatar, 2019. Post-egg Bondi morphs into a foreign agent, pocketing fees to polish the Emirates' image, ahead of the World Cup, even as human trafficking shadows loomed, smirking through ethics probes, defending Florida's gay marriage ban with a straight face, just the Constitution, she'd purr, while same-sex couples wept in the galleries. Arrogance wasn't a flaw, it was her armor. Now, 2025, Bondi's ascended to us. Attorney General, Trump's shield maiden, her crimson lipstick a slash of defiance in Oval Office briefings. She directs DOJ lawyers to zealously pursue the president's objectives, firing those who balk, New York prosecutors dropping corruption charges against allies like Eric Adams, Washington holdouts resigning en masse, a Florida bar complaint signed by 70 ethicists brands it serious misconduct, threatening the rule of law. But Bondi? She laughs it off on Fox, eyes glinting. Witch hunt. Her Florida Supreme Court allies bury the probe, untouchable. Enter Kash Patel, the shadow to her spotlight, born in Garden City, New York, to Gujarati immigrants fleeing Idi Amin's Uganda, parents who traded ancestral lands in Badran village for the American grind. Patel spins rags to riches into a weapon, public defender, counterterrorism prosecutor, then Nunes's pit bull on the House Intelligence Committee. He authors the Nunes memo, a partisan grenade lobbed at the FBI's Russia probe, twisting facts into Trump's exoneration. Deep state he hisses on podcasts, peddling QAnon fever dreams. January 6th as a setup, election fraud as gospel. By 2024, he's Trump's warrior, vowing to shutter FBI headquarters as a deep state museum, scatter 7,000 agents like chaff, confirmed FBI director. In February 2025, Patel wastes no time. He axes 20 agents who knelt during George Floyd protests, cuts ties with the Anti-Defamation League over anti-Semitism backlash from Elon Musk. His girlfriend, country singer Alexis Wilkins, sparks tabloid fire, accusations of Israeli spy ties, government jets whisking him to her Nashville gigs. Patel erupts on X, cowardly lies, firing a top fleet official who leaked the logs. Family? Overseas, per reports. Brothers, sisters-in-law waiting in the wings, ripe for the grift. He preaches draining the swamp while his board seat at Trump Media and Technology Group nets $465,000 financial leashes yanking him toward Mar-a-Lago. Their empire? Secure Justice Consulting, the crown jewel. Born in the shadows of Trump's second inauguration, it's a shell stitched from Patel's wife's Rolodex and Bondi's lobbyist Rolodex, her old Ballard partners' cronies, his foreign clients like Shine, the fast-fashion behemoth dodging labor probes, consulting fees they call it, 15% skimmed off DOJ grants, $8.7 million rerouted from the Epstein Victim Compensation Fund and Human Trafficking Task Force. Installment 1, $2.8 million wired to Patel's brother's Cayman Family Trust. 2, $1.2 million to Bondi's sister-in-law's nonprofit in Tampa, laundering foreign cash from Saudi princes and UAE sheiks, eager to bury Epstein's threads. 3, the $4.2 million kicker stamped operational needs. Arrogance crests in encrypted signal chats leaked by a trembling whistleblower, Bondi, thumbs flying, Epstein's too hot, kill the probe, redirect, to our needs. Patel, agreed, families get 15% cut, keeps it clean. Smug denials follow, Bondi on CNN, routine reallocations. Patel on his Cash's Corner podcast, fake news from deep state rats, they toast in a DC steakhouse, clinking glasses to the silenced victims, children in chains, families forgotten, while America sleeps, but their fortress of lies, built on immigrant sweat turned sour, on oaths twisted into nooses, can't hold forever. The contradictions scream, drain the swamp? They've dammed it into a private lake. Preach justice? They've auctioned it to the highest bidder. The smirks will fade, the denials crack, because empires like theirs always do. When the receipts surface and the light burns through, but one man, forged in sacrifice, was ready to end their reign. The first time Chris Van Hollen ever saw the Potomac, he was 5 years old, clutching his mother's hand on the deck of a rust-flecked ferry from Athens. His father, a foreign service officer, had been posted to Greece. The family crossed oceans the way other kids crossed streets. Eliza Van Hollen, a CIA analyst who spoke 5 languages and baked lemon cakes like a diplomat, whispered to her son, "America doesn't care where you were born. It cares what you do when you get here." That sentence became the spine of his life. Fast forward to a cramped dorm room at Swarthmore College, 1982. Chris, scholarship kid in a sea of trust funds, stays up past midnight annotating the Federalist Papers with a No. 2 pencil. His roommate, a lacrosse bro from Connecticut, jokes, "You gonna save the world, Van Hollen?" Chris doesn't laugh. He's already drafting his first op-ed on apartheid divestment, fingers smudged with newsprint. The fire is quiet, but it's there. Harvard Law follows, then a clerkship for a federal judge who tears apart sloppy briefs like confetti. Chris learns precision the way surgeons learn scalpels. By 1991, he's in Maryland House of Delegates, the youngest member, fighting for a living wage while his colleagues eye lobbyist lunches. He wins by knocking on doors in Prince George's County, rain soaking his corduroy jacket, listening to single moms who work 2 jobs and still can't afford daycare. Every story becomes a line item in a bill he passes at 2 a.m. When the cameras are gone, the Senate calls in 2016, he unseats a 14-year incumbent by walking every county, shaking every hand, memorizing every zip code. On election night, his daughter Serena, then 10, asks, "Daddy, does this mean you fix everything now?" He kneels eye level. "It means we start." Capitol Hill becomes his crucible. He authors the Stock Act to stop congressional insider trading, staring down millionaires who swear they forgot to disclose Tesla trades. When banks crashed the economy in 2008, he's the guy in the basement of the Dirksen building, sleeves rolled, red pen slashing through Dodd-Frank drafts until the language is bulletproof. Elizabeth Warren calls him the Quiet Hammer. He hates the nickname. Hammers make noise. He prefers scalpels, but the real forge is personal. His wife Catherine, a pediatrician, brings home charts of kids poisoned by lead in Baltimore water. Chris pours over them at the kitchen table, coffee going cold. He authors the Water Infrastructure Act, secures $1.2 billion, then drives to Sandtown, Winchester to watch the first pipe replaced. A grandmother hugs him so hard his ribs creak. "My grandbaby gonna drink clean," she sobs. He doesn't cry in public. He cries in the car on the way home, windows fogged, vowing never to let bureaucracy outrun decency. Now, 2025, the Epstein files land on his desk like a live grenade. It starts with a burner phone slipped into his coat pocket during a metro ride. Agent Sarah Chen, FBI Financial Crimes. They're killing the trafficking fund. Meet me, Union Station, 11 p.m. He goes, Chen is 32, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, voice trembling. They threatened my badge, my mom's immigration status. Patel's brother got $2.8 million last quarter. Bondi's sister-in-law cashed $1.2 million the same week the Epstein probe flatlined. She hands over a thumb drive sealed in a Ziploc. If I disappear, you'll know why. Van Hollen doesn't sleep for 72 hours. He holes up in his hideaway office, blinds drawn, whiteboard covered in arrows and account numbers, Secure Justice Consulting, Cayman routing codes, 15% consulting fees, Saudi deposits, time-stamped the day the Epstein task force budget vanished. He cross-references every transaction with grant disbursements, victim compensation logs, even Patel's brother's Instagram posts from a yacht in Dubai. The web is intricate, but Chris has spent 30 years untangling knots. By dawn, he has the $8.7 million mapped like a battlefield. He calls Chen at 3 a.m. You still in? A pause, then steel in her whisper. For the kids? Always. She FedExes the final piece. An encrypted signal thread where Bondi types kill Epstein, redirect to family needs. Patel replies with a thumbs up emoji. Chris stares at the screen until the words blur. This isn't politics. This is sacrilege against every oath, every child, every immigrant parent who believed America's promise. October 6th, the night before the hearing, he rehearses in the mirror. No shouting, no theatrics, just facts delivered like a surgeon's incision. Serena, now 19, finds him at the kitchen island, tie askew. Dad, you look like you're going to war. He smiles, tired but certain. I'm going to surgery. The next morning he walks into the hearing room carrying the folder like a relic. Bondi smirks when he enters. Patel doesn't look up. They have no idea the scalpel is already in his hand. Armed with irrefutable receipts, he strikes, and the villains shatter. The gavel cracks like a starter pistol. Chairman Durbin's voice cuts through the static. Senator Van Hollen, you have the floor. The room exhales as one lung. Van Hollen stands, folder open, the first page already projected on the giant screen behind the witnesses. A wire transfer dated March 14, 2025, $2.8 million from the DOJ Human Trafficking Task Force to Secure Justice Consulting, LLC, the account holder's name, glows in bold. Rajesh Patel. He begins softly, almost conversationally. Madam Attorney General, Director Patel, let's start with the basics. Secure Justice Consulting, your wife's firm, Director Patel, and your former partners, General Bondi, received $2.8 million in what you've called legitimate consulting fees. Can you walk us through the deliverables, a report, a memo, a single invoice? Bondi leans in, crimson lips curling. Senator, this is a Democratic witch hunt recycled from 2016. My office has reviewed every contract. Every penny is accounted for. Her voice drips honey over broken glass. Van Hollen doesn't blink. Accounted for where exactly? He flips the page. A second transfer appears. $1.2 million April 9th to a Tampa nonprofit run by Bondi's sister-in-law. This one bought a condo in Clearwater, lovely ocean view. Did the trafficking victims get a timeshare? Laughter ripples from the left side of the dais. Bondi's jaw tightens. You're twisting facts. That nonprofit provides victim outreach. Outreach to your family's bank account, Van Hollen finishes. He turns to Patel, Director, your brother Rajesh, posted from Dubai the same week this money landed, caption, Living the Dream. Was that the dream the Epstein Fund was supposed to finance? Patel's knuckles whiten on the table's edge. My family has nothing to do with DOJ operations. This is slander. His voice cracks on the last word, betraying the tremor he can't hide. Van Hollen's tone stays level, surgical. Slander requires falsehood. Let's test that. He nods to the technician. The screen shifts to a screenshot. A signal chat, March 12, 10:47 p.m. Bondi's avatar, a tiny American flag, types, Epstein probe too hot. Redirect funds now, 15% to family accounts. Tells reply, a single thumbs up emoji, gasps erupt like gunfire. A reporter in the front row drops her phone. It clatters loud enough to echo. Bondi's eyes dart to the exit, then back to the screen, pupils pinpricks. Patel's chair creaks as he leans forward, elbows slamming the table. That chat is fabricated, he barks, but the tremor has spread to his shoulders. Van Hollen lets the silence stretch, thick as tar. Fabricated by whom, director? The metadata says otherwise. Sent from your official DOJ phone. He flips another page. A third transfer, $4.2 million, May 3, from a Saudi shell company to the same Cayman account. This one came the day the Epstein task force budget flatlined. Coincidence? Bondi recovers enough to snarl, "You're grandstanding for C-SPAN, Senator. Where's your evidence these funds weren't for legitimate foreign influence?" Van Hollen interrupts, voice still calm, but the room feels the blade. "Because the UAE deposit came with a note, for services rendered, Epstein file closure." Shall I read the Arabic? The gallery erupts. A progressive activist in the back shouts, "Resign!" Phones rise like periscopes. Bondi's composure fractures. Her hand flies to her throat as if the words are choking her. Patel's breathing turns audible, ragged through the microphones. Sweat beads at his hairline, catching the camera lights like tiny spotlights on his unraveling. Van Hollen stands motionless. The eye of the storm. Every insult, every denial, every desperate deflection lands against his silence like pebbles on steel. The clock above the dais ticks to 94 seconds since his opening question. The room is electric, oxygen thinning. Then, the audio drops. The room falls silent. What happens next? Unthinkable. The silence after the signal chat screenshot is so complete the hum of the air conditioning feels like a scream. Van Hollen lets it stretch. 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. Then he nods to the technician almost imperceptibly. The lights dim a fraction. A new file icon appears on the screen. An audio waveform. Time-stamped March 11th, 2025, 11:03 p.m. He speaks into the void. Words on a screen can be forged. Voices, however, are harder to fake. His finger hovers over the play button. This is a recording from a secure DOJ conference line. The participants, Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, and an unidentified third party. For the record, the FBI's own forensic lab authenticated it at 4:17 a.m. today. Bondi's head snaps up. "Objection! That call is privileged. Privilege ends where treason begins," Van Hollen says and presses play. The speakers crackle. Bondi's voice first, crisp, impatient. "Epstein's too hot. The victim fund is a liability. We kill the probe tonight." A pause, the clink of ice in a glass. Patel, lower, conspiratorial. "Redirect the full $8.7 million through secure justice, 15% to family accounts, the rest cycles back as consulting." Saudi and UAE wires are already queued. A third voice, accented, oily, "Consider it handled, file closure by sunrise." The call ends with Bondi's laugh, sharp as breaking crystal. The waveform freezes. The room detonates. Van Hollen doesn't flinch. He flips to the master slide, a color-coded flowchart titled "The $8.70 million heist." 3 arrows, thick as blood vessels, pulse across the screen. Arrow 1, March 14th, $2.8 million. DOJ Trafficking Task Force to secure justice consulting to Rajesh Patel's Cayman Trust. Arrow 2, April 9th, $1.2 million. Same task force to Bondi's sister-in-law's Tampa nonprofit to a Clearwater condo closing. Arrow 3, May 3, $4.2 million. Saudi shell company Al Rashid Holdings to the same Cayman account. Time-stamped 2:14 a.m., the morning the Epstein task force budget line item vanished from the DOJ ledger. He narrates like a surgeon dictating. Installment 1 bought silence. Installment 2 bought real estate. Installment 3 bought foreign government's gratitude. Each click of the remote lands like a hammer on an anvil. The gallery is on its feet. Phones shake in trembling hands. A young staffer in the back row mouths, "Holy shit," audible on the hot mic. Van Hollen turns to the whistleblower slide. A redacted email chain. Agent Sarah Chen to her supervisor, February 28th, requesting urgent review of fund redirection. Supervisor's reply, "Stand down or face termination." Next email, March 1, Chen to HR, "My mother's visa renewal is being held hostage." Final email, March 3, "I resign. The resignation letter is stamped accepted, effective immediately." Chen's personnel file flashes next. Security badge deactivated, office cleared by armed escort. Bondi's face drains to ash. Patel's chest rises and falls like he's sprinting in place. Van Hollen's voice drops to a whisper that somehow fills the chamber. 94 seconds ago I asked for deliverables. You gave me excuses. Now I give you the receipt." He lifts the final document, a single sheet, and reads aloud. Total diverted, $8,700,000. Purpose, personal enrichment and foreign influence. Signatories, Pamela Jo Bondi, Kashyap Pramod Patel. He lets the paper float to the desk. Your arrogance ends here. The clock hits 0. Bondi's shoulders cave first. A sound escapes her, half sob, half gasp, raw and animal, caught by the microphone like a confession. Tears streak her mascara in perfect black rivers. She buries her face in trembling hands, the crimson blazer suddenly too bright, too loud. The sobs come in waves, each one louder, more desperate, until her entire body shakes. The gallery watches in stunned silence, then erupts, cheers crashing like surf. Patel is worse. He bolts upright so fast his chair topples backward with a metallic crash. His finger jabs the air, trembling, veins bulging in his neck. "This is a coup," he roars, but his voice cracks into a boy's squeak. His chest heaves, sweat soaks through his shirt in dark patches. He looks left, right, nowhere to run. His eyes lock on Van Hollen, wild, cornered, and for one terrifying second it seems he might lunge. Then the fight drains out of him. His knees buckle, he grips the table to stay upright, knuckles bone white, breath sawing in and out. Van Hollen stands motionless, the calm center of the hurricane. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't need to. The receipts have spoken, the chamber exploded, but the real shock waves were just beginning. The gavel slams once, twice, a third time, but the sound is swallowed by the roar. Chairman Durbin's voice cracks over the din. "Order, order, it's useless." The chamber has become a coliseum. Staffers sprint down aisles, tripping over cables. Reporters surge forward like a tidal wave. Microphones thrust toward the witness table where Bondi's sobs have dissolved into hiccuping silence, and Patel stares at the floor as if it might open and swallow him whole. Van Hollen remains standing, arms loose at his sides, the eye of the storm. A junior senator from California mouths thank you across the dais. A progressive freshman from Michigan pumps a fist. The gallery chants, low at first, then swelling, "Receipts, receipts, receipts." Phones glow like constellations, every screen live streaming the meltdown to millions. Outside, the steps of the Dirksen building are already a war zone. Cameramen shove for position. Protesters who've camped since dawn surge past barricades, signs aloft. "Protect the kids, not the kleptocrats." A teenage girl in a hijab holds a photo of her missing cousin, tears cutting clean paths through dust on her cheeks. Someone starts singing "This Little Light of Mine." Within seconds, the whole plaza joins in, voices cracking with hope. Inside the press gallery, laptops ping in frantic Morse code. The first tweet lands at 2:17 p.m. A 15-second clip of Bondi's mascara-streaked collapse, captioned when the receipts hit. By 2:19, hashtag Bondi Patel Meltdown is trending #1 worldwide. Memes spawn faster than the algorithm can flag them. Bondi's face photoshopped onto the Titanic sinking, Patel's trembling finger as a fidget spinner, Van Hollen's calm silhouette labeled Big Receipt Energy. A viral thread from a former Epstein victim racks up 3.2 million likes. "They stole our justice money for condos. Today we got it back in tears." CNN cuts from a cooking segment to Wolf Blitzer, tie askew. "We're going live to Capitol Hill where Attorney General Bondi has just..." Fox follows suit. Shepard Smith's voice grave. Sources inside the DOJ confirm criminal referrals are being drafted as we speak. Even Newsmax stumbles, the anchor blinking at the teleprompter. "We will have reaction from the White House shortly. Celebrities flood the timeline." Cardi B posts a voice note. "I've been saying follow the money. Van Hollen just did surgery with a scalpel made of receipts." LeBron James tweets a single emoji. A GOP senator from Utah up for re-election in a purple state releases a statement at 2:41 p.m. "The evidence is damning. Resignations are the only path forward." By 3 more Republicans echo the call. The dam has broken. Back in the hearing room, the sergeant-at-arms escorts Bondi out a side door. She's hunched, clutching a tissue like a lifeline. Patel follows, flanked by Capitol Police, his suit jacket slung over one arm like a surrender flag. A reporter shouts, "Director, any comment on the Saudi wire?" Patel's head snaps up, eyes bloodshot, but no words come. The door slammed behind them. Van Hollen finally sits. His phone buzzes nonstop. Texts from Warren, "You beautiful nerd." From Schumer, "Proud doesn't cover it." From his daughter Serena, "Dad, the group chat is losing IT." But the message that stops him cold is from Sarah Chen, the whistleblower. "They just unfroze my mom's visa. Thank you." He stares at the screen until the letters blur. By 4 p.m., the DOJ Inspector General announces an emergency probe, criminal referrals signed by Van Hollen, co-signed by every Democrat and 4 Republicans, are hand-delivered to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Agent Chen is reinstated with back pay and a protective detail. Her first act: uploads the full signal thread to a public server. Downloads hit 1 million in 20 minutes. Across the country, watch parties erupt. A Baltimore community center streams the hearing on a projector. Grandmothers who fought for clean water cheer like it's the Super Bowl. A Queens bodega owner replays the audio on loop for customers. In a Nashville diner, a country singer who once dated Patel's cousin deletes her Instagram. And you, yes, you, the one pausing this video to text your group chat, the one who sent that anonymous tip 6 months ago about weird consulting payments, the one who shared Sarah Chen's GoFundMe when they froze her accounts, your screenshot, your retweet, your $5 donation, they were the kindling. Van Hollen was the match. Today, the fire is nationwide, from tears to triumph. The moral that heals America. The chamber doors close behind the last reporter, leaving only the echo of footsteps and the faint smell of burnt coffee. Van Hollen stands alone at the dais, the folder now closed, its contents already legend. He doesn't smile for the cameras. There are none left. Instead, he looks up at the empty gallery, where minutes ago strangers wept for children they never met. The silence feels sacred. He thinks of his mother on that ferry deck, wind whipping her scarf, promising a country that rewards decency. He thinks of Sarah Chen, badge reinstated, mother's visa stamped, sleeping without fear for the first time in months. He thinks of the Epstein victims whose names will finally appear on grant checks instead of shell company ledgers. The math is simple. One calm voice plus irrefutable truth equals $8,700,000 returned to the people it was stolen from. Service over greed, truth over arrogance. The equation writes itself across the marble walls. Outside, dusk paints the Capitol dome lavender. A line of delivery trucks idles on Constitution Avenue, drivers glued to phone screens replaying the meltdown. A food truck vendor hands out free empanadas to protesters who stayed past dark. Someone chalks on the sidewalk. Dignity doesn't scream. IT receipts. By morning, the phrase will be stitched on T-shirts in Dhaka, tattooed on forearms in Detroit, whispered in immigration waiting rooms from Brownsville to Blaine. Van Hollen walks the long corridor to his office. Portraits of long-dead senators stare down. Some heroes, some villains, all dust now. He pauses beneath Ted Kennedy's frame, the one where the line of the Senate looks tired but unbroken. "We did it, Ted," he murmurs. The portrait doesn't answer, but the fluorescent light flickers like a nod. Inside his hideaway, the whiteboard still bears the $8.7 million flowchart. Arrows now smudged from frantic staffers photographing evidence. Serena's waiting, perched on the desk, eyes shining. "Dad, the internet's calling you, receipt daddy." He groans, but the laugh that follows is the first real one all day. She hugs him hard enough to crack ribs. Mom says, "Bring home milk and maybe a presidency." He will not run. He will go home, kiss Catherine, grade papers with his youngest, fall asleep to the sound of Serena practicing cello. Tomorrow he'll introduce legislation to claw back every stolen cent with 15% interest for the victims. The day after, he'll meet Chen for coffee and ask how her mother likes her new apartment. Normalcy is the revolution's quiet reward, but tonight, America learns the moral in real time. Bondi's tears are not the story, they are the symptom. Patel's panic is not the climax, it is the crack in the dam. The story is the grandmother in Baltimore who will finally afford her grandson's asthma meds because the trafficking grant is whole again. The story is the daughter of an Epstein victim who texts her therapist, "They can't bury us anymore." The story is you. Yes, you, pausing this video with wet eyes, realizing your retweet, your tip, your stubborn hope was the first domino. Dignity doesn't need a megaphone. It needs a folder, a subway ride, a 3 a.m. whiteboard session, a mother's promise kept across oceans. One voice, steady and unafraid, can topple empires built on the bones of children. That voice was never alone. It was amplified by every immigrant parent who taught their kid to work twice as hard, every teacher who stayed late, every viewer who refused to look away. The villains broke because accountability is heavier than arrogance. Their sobs were the sound of a scale finally balancing. And somewhere, a little girl who once feared the dark falls asleep, knowing the grown-ups kept their oath. Tears tonight are not defeat. They are irrigation for a country learning, again, how to grow justice from the ashes of betrayal. Your voice matters. Speak it. Receipt it. Live it. America is listening. Van Hollen's $8.7 million receipt didn't just expose theft, it broke the villains in 94 seconds flat. One folder, one voice, one unbreakable line between right and wrong, and the whole rotten empire crumbled live on every screen in America. Bondi's tears, Patel's panic, the shell companies, the foreign cash, all of it collapsed under the weight of simple, relentless truth. This is what resilience looks like. Not shouting, not trending, not viral for a day, but showing up, doing the work, protecting the vulnerable when no one's watching, then dropping the hammer when the world finally is. From a ferry deck in 1965 to a Senate dais in 2025, the promise held. America bends cracks, but never breaks when dignity leads. So here's your move. Smash that like button. If justice just lit a fire in your chest, subscribe right now for more takedowns, more receipts, more moments when arrogance meets its match. Share this video with every patriot who still believes one voice can change everything. Drop your reaction in the comments. Your rage, your hope, your own story of fighting the machine. Tag the whistleblowers in your life. Let's build the movement that keeps corruption scared and kids safe. We're not done. The next empire is already counting its money. Let's count the seconds until it falls. See you in the comments, the inbox, the streets. The receipts are coming.